Hey there, Mr. Terry, high school history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher X video. All right, I pulled this one from the Discord video suggestions. It's called Weird Guns from History, Tales from the Bottle. Now, this is from a channel I don't think I've heard of called Qxir, but it's doing really well. 400,000 views in 3 weeks. Our original video link is down below. Make sure to support that. Now let's check out these weird guns. All right, I feel like I've covered a lot of weird weapons from history. I'm hoping we get some especially weird ones here. Let's see what they got. Qxir? Oh, wait, did he say it? Qxir? Okay.
The last video I made was about the amazing design of the world's most popular pen, and people seem to like that, so reason dictates that the only logical conclusion is to make a video about amazing gun design.
Sure.
I don't know much about guns, but through my love of history, I do believe I have discovered the greatest gun ever. This is the Apache revolver, which was popular in the French underworld in the early 1900s.
Okay, I'm trying to understand the concept of it here. No, I don't get it.
Favored by hooligans and muggers and the like. And it's not hard to see why. Thanks to its folding design, it's easy to conceal, and you could actually unfold it into 3 separate weapons.
You got brass knuckles.
Transformer. You got your knuckle duster for punch-ups.
Transformer gun.
When the stakes are a little higher, you just do some unfolding, and you've got a knife for stabbing action. And when neither of these options are enough, it's time to start blasting. It unfolds into a revolver.
See, with virtually having no barrel, this thing would have to be at like point blank. Is there closer than point blank? Basically up against the target.
Of course, the revolver isn't exactly flawless. You might notice there's no sights to aim the weapon, but that's okay because there's no barrel either. As soon as that 7mm bullet leaves the cylinder, it's on its own.
Yeah,
so it's only really effective at point blank range. And unsurprisingly, there's no safety on this weapon either, which is kind of a problem because there's also no trigger guard. For this reason, you'd probably only want 5 rounds in the 6-round cylinder and keep the hammer over the empty chamber just in case the trigger is pulled accidentally.
Okay, I have a prediction. This thing went off in people's pants accidentally way more than it was actually ever shot effectively at somebody.
When you're out of ammo, you'd have to remove the cylinder completely and... okay, maybe this thing is a little unwieldy, but that's okay. I have another pistol to show you. This is a duck's foot pistol, and I'm sure you can instantly see the genius of this design. Just imagine you're being beset upon by 4 evenly spaced rapscallions.
Bang, and the dirt is gone!
These 18th and 19th century pistols fired a volley of shots with a single trigger pull.
I'm actually interested to know like the physics of this, of being able to, shoot them all out. So you load them from the top there and shoot it. I guess you just hope. Is it really designed to be like multiple people, like you're getting out of being mobbed by a gang, or just guns again are so accurate that you just hope one of these hits your target?
The idea being one person could take out a group of attackers. For this reason, it was most popular among bank guards, prison wardens, and sea captains.
Okay.
Of course, the weapon also had some downsides. There was a lot of recoil, as you can probably imagine. It wasn't exactly the easiest thing to load, and it wasn't particularly accurate either.
Here's already why you can tell this gun sucked, is we don't use this type of design. We don't use this type of concept anymore. So it must have sucked.
There is also the possible scenario of having to fire at a single person who's straight in front of you. That might
only
be
has
a problem,
one arm,
unless he's asking you to pierce both his ears for him.
Like turn it sideways?
There were other volley guns too. Like
Turn it
the
sideways?
knock gun. This flintlock was used by the British Royal Navy during the early stages of the Napoleonic Wars. It featured 6 barrels surrounding one central barrel for a total of 7 barrels. When an enemy ship was approaching boarding distance, you'd have men up on the masts firing volleys from their knock guns and decimating the enemy crew.
Okay, I'm noticing a theme with all of these weapons so far, and it's that it just showed how inaccurate guns were, that they tried to overcompensate by just having more bullets and more potential damage.
Of course, it had a pretty savage kickback, which could dislocate your shoulder or break your collarbone. The muzzle flash was a pretty serious hazard too. If fired from the rigging, there was a chance to set the sails on fire. Probably wouldn't want that. Because the knock gun posed a threat to its own crew, officers were hesitant to call for their use, and they quickly fell out of favour. But I still think this volley gun stuff is a good idea. How about a gun that you don't have to hold while firing?
So yeah, I feel like this is something that should be on some wheels of some kind. Basically like a mini cannon. It's like before Gatling guns, so not having that rotating barrels and just a steady feed of ammunition. This is like precursor to that. That's probably what they were thinking with all this, and eventually getting things like the Maxim machine gun, which is such a game changer in history.
Then the recoil wouldn't be a problem. This is the Infernal Machine. From the name alone, you know this one's gonna be good. 25 rifle barrels, each containing 6 to 8 balls and over a dozen slugs. There was only one Infernal Machine, made by Giuseppe Marco Fieschi in 1835 to kill King Louis Philippe I of France. Now,
imagine you're so hated that a weapon was invented for the assassination here. Which reminds me of some of the early stuff they had in Asia. So like when they were early experimenting with gunpowder technology, this was the type of thing that you might see as well, potentially, because, just having like one of these for a person was so inefficient. It wasn't even useful. But again, put a whole bunch of them together and line them up in some kind of fashion, light them all up. And then, it's a numbers game. You're going to hit something.
Here's a gun with some serious pedigree. As the king and his convoy marched the streets on their way to the annual Paris National Guard inspection, Fieschi laid in wait with the Infernal Machine pointing out the window of his third-floor apartment. As the convoy passed below, Fieschi fired the gun, and it surely earned its name as the Infernal Machine. 400 projectiles were fired into the crowd. 18 people were killed.
Oh my
Unfortunately for Fieschi, the king was not one of them.
Oh, of course.
He had been grazed on the forehead and only minorly injured. Around 20 other people were also injured. Unfortunately for Fieschi, he was one of them. 4 of the barrels had misfired and 4 had burst, causing Fieschi severe wounds to his head and hand. His escape was foiled by the trail of blood he left behind, leading to his capture.
So that whole idea of like the exploding barrels was something they knew very early on in the history of gunpowder, and even when they scale up to say like cannons. The cannons used, for example, on the siege of Constantinople in 1453 did a cool down because they knew how explosive they were and had to make sure they were prone to cracking, so it had to be literally cooled down or it could expand. They'd have to do it rest it essentially like for hours.
2 of his fingers had to be amputated, which sucked for him because he was later executed for his crime anyway. French artillery officers inspected the Infernal Machine afterwards and were glad that Fieschi was not more experienced in gun design. They believed that had the barrels been angled out rather than parallel, the king would have been torn to pieces and an additional 200 people would have died. Okay, so it didn't reach its full potential, but I still have other contenders. The Puckle gun is one of the first ever guns to be referred to as a machine gun, patented way back in 1718.
Okay, so way before Maxim machine gun. That was really kind of the precursor to modern machine gunnery, but that wasn't until later 1800s.
It was designed as a flintlock revolver. Oh god, I can already tell this one fucking sucks. Basically, you'd fire, then operate a crank to turn the cylinder, and when the cylinder was spent, it could be removed and replaced with...
It's just like a big revolver. I mean, it literally...
a fresh one. With this, the Puckle gun could achieve a rate of fire of about 9 rounds a minute, which is pretty laughable for a so-called machine gun, but at the time, even a very experienced
good for that time.
Could only hope for a maximum of maybe 5 rounds a minute on a good day.
What Major Sharp says,
and way bigger ammunition,
is the ability to be able to fire 3 rounds a minute in any weather.
What's really interesting about the Puckle gun is how its creator intended it to be used. It was invented by James Puckle, whose patent for the weapon has been described as containing more rhetorical fervor than technical rigor. You see, the gun could be set up in one of 2 configurations.
Okay, hold on. Am I the only one that actually thinks it looks kind of cool?
One was fired with conventional round bullets. The patent explains this is for fighting fellow Christians. However, when used against peoples of other religions, namely Muslim Turks, the gun could be configured to fire squared bullets, which Puckle thought would inflict greater wounding and suffering. The purpose of this, according to the patent, was to convince the Turks of the benefits of Christian civilization.
What? What? It affects people differently based on their religion? Okay, this guy was, okay, you know, he now canceled out that weapon kind of looking cool. Now it's just stupid. So, like, it canceled it out. It's now net neutral.
Day 625. The enemy have deployed a new weapon, the savagery of which has never before been seen.
Turks are prone to squares.
Hands, the air itself being chewed up by its fire. A devastating 9 rounds within a single minute. As if not satisfied by the cruelty of their invention, the English have taken to using square bullets. Square. Yeah. The brutality of the battlefield has become too much to bear. I hereby renounce my country and my beliefs and turn to a life of apostasy. How can one deny that Christianity, with its square bullets, is the one true faith? The Puckle gun
insert all the Turks. So that is why the Ottomans lost World War I. I just didn't know enough about the weaponry used.
Failed to impress the British government, who found the flintlock mechanism to be unreliable. As a result, very few Puckle guns were ever created. Okay, I think my problem so far has been selecting guns that have been outclassed through the passage of time. But here's a problem that's still prevalent today. Let's say you're here, and this other guy is here, and you want to shoot this guy. But there's a corner in the way. In order to shoot him, you would have to peek around the corner, ascertain his exact location and draw aim, by which point he has likely already shot you. This sounds like a job for German engineering.
Oh man.
Yes! You see? Problem solved. This is the Krummlauf, a barrel attachment for the German Sturmgewehr 44 used in World War II. You probably don't need me to explain how it works. It's
historical video games.
Just a barrel with a bend in it. Personally, I would have suggested an accordion joint so you could angle it any way you wanted to, like a bendy straw. But that might have been too whimsical for the Germans.
Yeah.
Now I know what you're thinking. How could Germany lose World War II with this? Well,
exactly.
Let's see. Apparently firing bullets through a bent barrel is not good for the barrel or the bullets.
No,
the bullets would often be shattered by the stress undergone while turning the bend and would exit the barrel in multiple fragments, and the barrel itself would be destroyed after a number of bullets. Okay, look, I have one more gun.
Okay, yeah, that's one I have seen before because it was ridiculous. I think it was in one of the weird like weapons of history thing that I have seen before. It's just like, that's obviously, it doesn't work, especially when the barrel's so short like that, you know, when it's just, they just bent it from the rifle. That means it's got a sharper angle, and obviously that's not going to work with the velocity of the bullet.
The mother of all guns. The Davy Crockett recoilless gun that fired a tactical nuclear warhead with a yield of 20 tons of TNT. That's pretty much solved every other problem we've encountered right there. No more guy around the corner, no more corner. It worked like this. You'd set it up on a tripod and fire a depleted uranium round from its spotting rifle. This round would produce smoke wherever it landed and give you an idea of where the nuke would land. Then you'd arm the warhead and fire it remotely at the end of its 72 feet of detonating cord. The Davy Crockett had a maximum range of 2.5 miles. Anybody within 520 feet of the blast, dead pretty much instantly.
See this now, yeah, this is very much looking alternate history reality, like from Fallout. You ever play the Fallout games, the mini nukes? This is the inspiration here. Here we go.
Radiation would kill anybody just outside of that radius within hours or days.
Literally a mini nuke.
Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a pretty big radius of death compared to its range, but the Davy Crockett was supposedly safe for its crew as long as they followed the strict operating procedure. To be honest, as long as the thing exploded where it was supposed to, I'd be fairly happy. But I know if it were ever me pressing the detonator, nothing would
trust
happen.
The accuracy.
And that's when I'd get real nervous. The Davy Crockett performed very well in tests and was technically a pretty sound weapon. However, it was eventually decided the whole thing was kind of a bad idea after the inventors caught wind of how eager
it seems like one of these like high risk, medium reward type of analysis there.
Were to get their hands on such a powerful weapon. They realized exactly what was going to happen.
That's true, harder to
Someone
protect.
would fire this off in a battlefield, which would then prompt the enemy to respond with a tactical nuke of their own,
exactly,
until the situation escalated into a full-blown nuclear war. By deploying these on the field, you...
That's true. It's like another way you can get mutually assured destruction. Actually, probably a more assured way of having mutually assured destruction there. Yeah, I'm glad this didn't really come to fruition.
Were potentially putting the fate of civilization into the hands of some infantryman. It was then decided that the power to detonate a nuke should rest only with people who were pretty sure understand the consequences, and not G.I. Joe. The Davy Crockett was retired. So there you go, a bunch of great weapon designs. Actually, they were all pretty terrible in their own
it's trial and error, right?
Weren't they? But if I had to pick one to defend my home from burglars, I'd probably choose... You know what? I might just go with a stern warning, actually. If you enjoyed this video, I have many others.
I mean, at least the first one had like a knife and like brass knuckles base, essentially. I think that would be the one to go with.
As well, and just like these guns, they're all terrible in different ways. You can subscribe to see more in the future, and until next time, stay safe.
Final thoughts. All right, fun little video there. Love to see some new channels there. Looks like you guys were liking that video. Again, it's been very popular, but yeah, those were some wild gun designs. And it does go back to this idea where, you know, it was so much about accuracy back then that it was either like try painstakingly to make your guns more accurate or just shoot more stuff off. All right, with that, we'll see y'all next time.